I got a bulldozer that's gonna be out here tomorrow morning. So this is the big area that I'm gonna be focused on. I don't know if y'all can see, but I got like a big old dead tree right there. There's a big old there's a bunch of dead trees in here. I don't know if y'all can really see that in the camera, but there's a bunch of dead trees right here. There's a big fallen tree right there. There's a big fallen tree over there, and there's a pond right over that way, about that way. You know, maybe if I go just a couple hundred more feet, there's a pond right there, but you can't even see the pond. I got a whole bunch of dead trees, and so I couldn't get the bush hog in here, because if you take a look around in this area right here, you're gonna see that there are a bunch of giant trees that have fallen over, and they're all over the field. And so I couldn't run the bush hog through here, because you know, if the bush hog hits a bunch of dead trees, it's gonna mess up the bush hog real bad. And so you can see where the bush hog got through, right? I mean, you can see where the bush hog was able to get through. But the rest of this stuff, it's not, the bush hog, you know, couldn't touch any of this stuff. And so I'll be coming through here with a dozer tomorrow morning. And so I figured I'd show it to y'all before, you know, the dozer will be here tomorrow morning. I just got it reserved. It'll be here tomorrow morning. And all along the fence line, you see all these little trees. I don't know if it's real easy to see or not on this video, but there are a bunch of little trees. Like, you see that one over there? But all of this stuff, there's a whole bunch of little trees in here, a whole bunch of them. Like, there's a whole bunch of them right there. There's a whole bunch of them right there. Those are all a bunch of little trees. And these little trees, they're called the honey locust. And honey locust trees, they're like extremely, they got a lot of thorns on them, and they're like little bushes. You know, and I got a bunch of these trees all over the place, and particularly all along my fence line. I don't know if, you know, but all along the fence line. But this property was effectively, the whole property was like this. It was just completely covered in brush, bunch of little trees everywhere. I did manage to get about 40 acres of it bush hogged, but the rest of the property I will need to bulldoze. I will be bulldozing the property tomorrow morning. I'll get started on that. And so but that's what's going on right now. I got the bulldozer coming in tomorrow morning. But the entire fence line of the property, it's actually a little bit worse than this. It's more like that stuff back there. You see all those trees kind of sticking up right there? All of those trees, those are honey locust trees back there. Honey locust or mesquite. And honey locust and mesquite trees, they got a lot of thorns on them. A lot of real big thorns on them. And it makes it, you can't even walk through them. Because if you walk through them, it'll rip your clothes up. It'll scrape you up real bad. I mean, these are just kind of nasty trees. And so, and there's a whole bunch of them. I don't, you know, I don't know if y'all can see that, that big, giant pile of them over there. That's a bunch of honey locust trees right there. And that honey locust, but the entire fence line of the property, effectively looks like that. And so I'm gonna have to run that bulldozer around the entire property one time. I'm just gonna bulldoze a clear path around the fence, the whole fence, and then so that I can at least walk around and take a look at the fence, right? That's the big idea. You know, I need to at least be able to walk around and take a look at the fence. And so I'll be bulldozing a clear path around the entire property, and I'll be clearing this up right here too. There's a pond right there, but you can't even see it. There's a pond right there, but you can't even see it. There's a giant dead tree in the way. I'll push that out of the way, and I'll push a clear path. I'll push everything out of the way to get to that pond. And then I'll clear a lot of this up. There's a whole bunch of dead trees right here. A whole bunch of dead trees. They've fallen over, you know, just a bunch of dead trees. You know, I'm not even going to be killing a tree. The tree's already dead. I'm just going to move the trunk out the way. I'm just going to move the tree out the way. And I got a giant bulldozer that's going to be here tomorrow. I got the biggest one they got, and I reserved it this morning. They'll be out here maybe 8 or 9 a.m., 8 to 9 a.m. tomorrow. That's the delivery time. Somewhere between 8 and 9, they will be here. And so I'm going to be bulldozing this field. And once I got this field bulldozed by about Monday, on Monday, they're going to be picking up the bulldozer, and then they're going to move it to the other field for me. And then I'm going to bulldoze the mesquite trees out of the property over there too. And so I got it all ready to go. You know, I got everything. I'm on schedule. I'm ready to roll here by about probably a Sunday. I would think that by about Sunday evening, when it starts getting a little bit dark, I'll be putting cattle out here. I'll go ahead and put cattle out here as long as they have clear access to the water. And there is a little bit of grass on the ground. There is a little bit of grass for them to eat, but I'll leave them a feed bunk out here, and I'll leave them some feed, and then I'll be good to go. I'll be bringing cattle out here probably Sunday evening, and then I'll be bulldozing all of this tomorrow. So I'm, letting y'all see what it looks like before I get started. I'll get started tomorrow morning, and then I'll show y'all what it looks like as I get through it. And I'll be clearing all this stuff out the way. There's a there's a good sized pond over there, and then that pond connects to another pond about right there with a via a creek. And that creek, when it rains a lot, the water will actually form a creek, and the two ponds will connect. And so I'm gonna clear all of that up tomorrow morning. I will be clearing all of that up tomorrow morning. I'll be pushing all these dead trees out the way, and I'll be getting rid of these trees along the fence line. And so, but that's what I got going on right now. I got these big cattle. I'm sitting on a bunch of big cattle right now. I got a bunch of big cattle. I'll be taking a look at it. And I'll be taking a look at it, and I'll figure out. I got to liquidate some of these animals, and then I got to reinvest the money, right? That's the whole idea, is reinvest the money, because there are a lot of ways to have money, right? I talk about this all the time. There are a lot of ways to have money that are not cash. A pristine asset, cattle. I can liquidate cattle if I legitimately want cash. If I legitimately want cash or need cash or whatever, I can just liquidate one of my animals. And this is like the same thing about holding the S&P 500, right? There are a lot of, I've always said use a pristine asset, right? This only works when you utilize a pristine asset. But the big idea is that there are many ways to have, I don't understand, why is this so difficult for people to understand, right? I've always said that, when it comes down to it, it just is what it is, all right? I'm not bashing anybody. There's no hard feelings about this. And I've always said the whole thing about being poor is that once you have become poor, you will hold on to being poor for all eternity. Don't ask me why. Don't tell me why. Definitely don't tell me why. I don't want to know why. For whatever reason, when you have a poor person, the poor people will hold, is it Stockholm syndrome? I don't know what it is, but when you become poor, it's not like it's even debatable, right? I mean, you are in a financially difficult situation, and if you became not an idiot, right? If you legitimately learned to not be an idiot and do better financially, your life would probably do better in life. All right, you will probably be happier. Your family will have more opportunity. You won't be an idiot. It's a lot of good things about it. But for whatever reason, when almost always, poor people will hold on to being poor for dear life. And this is something I don't understand why. Money's not an opinion. Nobody cares about your opinion. It's like, if you are dead set on, if you are poor and you are legitimately lying to yourself about it, and whatever it may be, and oh my God, everything is impossible, that's impossible, this is impossible, that can't be done, oh my God, and you're just gonna hold on to being poor forever, then have fun dying poor. I don't care. I will sit here and I will watch you die poor. When it comes down to it, when the rubber hits the road, financially, I am one of the best in the world. All right, in terms of financials, I may not be in the one and whatever, but I may not be in the very, 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 very top. I may not, whatever, but I am one of the best, most capable financial people on the planet. All right, one of the best. All right, this is what I do for a living. All right, I will legitimately clear all of this out the way, and I will put cattle out here. I will turn this into farmland. All right, when it comes down to it, I do very well for myself financially. It's not questionable. Even if I had nothing, I could make money. It doesn't matter to me. It's all whatever to me, right? Money is whatever to me. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to say it doesn't matter. It's negligible. If I had no money, I would just make more money. What does it matter? It doesn't, right? I mean, it is what it is. I mean, this is, it just is what it is. Financially, when the rubber hits the road, I am one of the most capable people financially on the entire planet. All right, my whole thing about this is like how, it's just mind-boggling to me. All right, to see the idiocy, the level of idiocy. It's almost like, every once in a while, there will be a new level of idiocy that I did not even know could exist that will appear. Oh my God, I can't afford fertilizer. Oh my God, fertilizer doesn't do anything. Whatever, right? My life is a magical journey and I was born to be a farmer. I fell out of heaven at 7. It's borderline, it's like, it's almost incredible to me. When it comes down to it, when the rubber hits the road, I am one of the best in the world. The whole thing about it is, if you think you can do better than me, then let's see it. All right, because at the end of the day, it is what it is. Why would I care? Financially, I do very well for myself. Why would I care? If you're legitimately dead set on being a moron, if you are dead set on being an idiot for your entire life, then have fun with that. I'm not joining you. All right, you're going to be poor for all eternity. I hope you're okay with the idea of being poor. All right, I hope you're okay with that. You'll sell your soul to the devil for nothing. You're kind of an idiot. I've always said that when you become poor, the thing about poor people is that poor people are not universally good people. You don't end up with a bunch of poor people because you had a bunch of good people. There's a very realistic possibility that you became poor because you're an idiot. Very realistic possibility. You're just a flat out moron. That's why you're poor. It's not because the world is unfair. It's not because of A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z. It's because you're an idiot. Right? Why are you so dead set on being poor, right? If and you could go from being poor to being broke tomorrow, instantaneously, if you felt like it. If you legitimately just changed, just all you had to, and I've already said, if you're legitimately in a situation where you're poor, right, and you want to go and be broke, what's a very realistic way to do it, right? Take a look at your budget. Figure out a way to make a margin for yourself, and then invest that margin in terms of something beyond money, right? What's something you could do? Stop complaining, right? That's something you could do. That's something that you could do. It won't cost you anything. Oh my God, everything is unfair, right? Oh my God, everything is unfair, and I fell out of heaven at 7, and my life's a magical journey. Nobody cares, all right? That's something you could do that won't cost you any money, right? Start thinking of a solution. Increase your margin, right? Increase the amount of margin that you have and invest your money, invest your margin into a pristine asset. Something that you understand. Something that will make you some kind of a positive return, right? Something, anything, choose something, right? There are a lot of things that you can invest in. But that's the thing that I don't understand about poor people. It's like, if you're legitimately poor, and you're kind of an idiot, and, you have a bunch of opinions, and you have nothing to show for it, and whatever, you're barely making enough to get by, and, life is a magical journey for you, and you think that you're just going to wake up one day, and you will, the answer will just land upon you, and, if that is legitimately you, then you're not going to get to the 10% mark if you live to be 5,000. Have fun with that. The whole thing about, I put a lot of emphasis on this. I could legitimately show you exactly how I do it. I could show you how to do everything. But if you do not go out and put in the work yourself, you are not going to make it. I've put a lot of emphasis on this. Even when, if you were going to go and grow 10 acres of grass, and you were going to grow that 10 acres of grass well enough to feed 35 500-pound cattle, how much is that going to cost you? Like $350 a month, 8 months out of the year. $400 a month, 8 months out of the year. That's it. You're not even at risk of losing a large amount of money. All right, I talk about this all the time. If you legitimately think that you need money to make money, you're an idiot. That is a clear indicator that you are a moron. Because you will legitimately end up in a situation. If that has started to happen, I can almost guarantee that will be your excuse for everything. It will. If you have one excuse, you will use it for everything. I don't have the money. The money is so negligible that it doesn't matter, right? Why do you give up on your dreams because of $1,000? Why? For the love of God, why? I'm not even charging anything for anything like this. I don't charge people. I'm not selling you a course. Right? I give you all of this information for free. I give away all of this information for free. If you legitimately end up in a situation where you legitimately think that you cannot do something because you don't have money, you are gonna die poor. You are going to die poor. I guarantee it. And you're not poor because you're a good person. All right? There is a very real possibility that you're dancing with the devil. You've already sold your soul to the devil. You're kind of an idiot. And you're a pathetic loser moron. All right? You don't want that to happen. All right? You don't want that to happen to yourself. Why? Go out and learn something. Go out and put in some effort. Right? Really push yourself to actually get better in your life. Or don't. And then get put into a situation where you get put on a field with somebody like me and I rip you apart. And then you don't get to have anything. If it comes down to it, I'll kick you into a hole. I don't care. I will legitimately watch you die poor. All right? You want to figure that, you want to see then let's see it. All right? This is not a joke. All right? I don't even charge anything. I'm not selling you a course or anything. All right, if you do not put in the work yourself, if you do not put in some kind of an effort, you have to understand that the most, realistic way for me to put this is that none of this costs me anything. When I run a farm, everything costs me nothing. I make money doing this. If I did not do this, I would hemorrhage hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. I would hemorrhage money. All right, if I did not do this, I would hemorrhage money. Farming does not cost anything. If you're in a situation where you legitimately believe that you cannot do something because you don't have money, then you are going to die poor. The money is negligible. Why are you giving up on your dreams because of $1,000? Even if you don't have land, right? And even if you don't have land, I lease land, right? I got 370 acres of lease property. Right? You can go out and lease these fields, all right? It doesn't matter. The money is negligible. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I don't know how else to put it. But me, I don't understand why. It's like when you become poor, why are you so adamant about being poor? Why do you hold on to being poor so tightly? Why? Right? Why are you not pushing forward out of this thing? Why are you not looking to why are you not looking to do better for yourself? Why? Right? What's the reason? There is no good reason. All right? If you have a why, then you're an idiot. There is no good reason for that. All right, go out into the world and do something better for yourself. Nobody cares about your opinion. And at the end of the day, when the rubber hits the road, if you legitimately want to do something like this, if you got put on a field with me, I would rip you apart. And if it came down to it, I would kick you into a hole and then I would watch you die. All right, it doesn't matter to me. I'm serious. I'm not joking about this. And when it comes to something like this, I legitimately give all of this information away for free. If we take a look at it through an objective lens, I have one of the best balance sheets on the entire planet. I will end up growing my balance sheet by over 20% in the next 3 months. By just reinvesting my earnings. That's 7% a month compounding. All right, I will legitimately end up growing my business by over 20% in the next 3 months. And that won't be with me using any debt. I will just take the money that I have and reinvest it. I will liquidate my animals and I will buy smaller animals. I have a lot of land that I'm working with right now. I can, grow grass on this. When it comes down to it, because to me it's almost like sad. It's like I don't understand. It's like the whole thing about, and I don't want to understand. Don't give me your worthless whatever it is. Your little, oh my God. Well, I've always said that the whole thing about this, if your little pity party story does not end in I succeeded massively, if it does not end in I did very well for myself, then nobody cares. Nobody cares about, oh my God, I tried really hard and then it was very difficult and so I quit. Nobody cares about that. Nobody cares about your worthless little trials and tribulations. Nobody cares. Oh my God, everything's just so expensive and I fell out of heaven at 7 and nobody cares. All right, you're gonna die poor. Have fun with that. What a pathetic situation, right? It's not funny, and in all honesty, it's kind of sad. It is honestly kind of sad. How did you end up like that? I mean, you're not even getting to the 10% mark. If you got to the 10% mark, money would no longer become relevant. Money would be whatever, right? You could practice for free. You could work on getting better for free. All right, none of this costs anything. Everything costs nothing. Everything makes me money. And it's like the whole thing is like, why, like me, I don't understand, why do poor people hang on to being poor so adamantly? It's borderline pathetic. Even when you're looking at it, you have no idea what you're even remotely looking at. It's like, how does that even work? I legitimately, I do this stuff and I show it to you. I actually do it in real life. It's, I don't know how else to put it. Don't end up as a poor person. And I'm not saying, having no money turns into a poor person. I'm turning it, I'm not saying that, having no money turns people into poor people. It doesn't, right? Poor people is poor character, right? You could have poor character. It has nothing to do with money. It's about poor people. It has nothing to do with money. At the end of the day, the money's negligible. It doesn't matter, right? Even like, someone like me, if I had no money, I would make a massive sum of money very quickly. It doesn't matter. Money's negligible. I'm talking about poor people, like legitimate, like poor character, poor, just a poor person. I'm not talking about money. Money's whatever. You can always make more money. You can lose money. I mean, you can lose hundreds of, there are people that lose hundreds of millions, billions of dollars all the time. They lose money. I mean, I'm not talking about, money. I'm talking about like just poor character and poor people. All right, it's borderline pathetic. And at the end of the day, why would I care? I am legitimately rich. I do very well for myself. My business is growing. I do extremely well for myself. I'm not going to join you in your little pathetic situation. I'm not. All right, I'm not. But don't end up as a poor person. I don't, I don't understand why. And I don't want to understand why. Why do you hang on to being poor so adamantly? Right? Why? Why? And I don't want to know, but ask yourself why. And then tell yourself you're an idiot if you have a reason. All right, because there is no reason to be poor. If you ask me why, if you ask me, I mean, there is legitimately no reason to be poor. I can't come up with the reason. Why would you choose to be poor? There are a bunch of people out there in the world that are doing very well, like me, I don't do easy work. I'm not sitting, just in the office collecting money. All right, I do very difficult work. Farming is one of those things that, almost even the people who try to do it cannot do it because the work is too hard. I guarantee it. All right, almost a lot of people when it comes to farming, it's like they just don't make it. The work is extremely difficult. It's not some simple job. All right, I don't do some easy thing. I solve big problems. I make a lot of money doing this because I solve big problems. There are a lot of people with land like this, and they need somebody like me to come in and do it, right? And then I can do business with these people, right? It's not some easy situation. It's not some, You know, it's whatever. I mean, it's not some easy situation. This is not some easy job. The only way to, this is not some easy line of work. Farming is incredibly difficult. All right, it's incredibly difficult. And I managed to make myself a tremendous amount of money doing it. I did. I managed to do it. Right? I do very well for myself. I will probably end up making over $1 million next year. I probably will. And how will I do that? By just taking the money that I make in my cattle business and putting it back into my business and then leveraging against my assets. That's how I will do it. I do very well for myself, all right? And at the end of the day, why would I care? I'm rich. I don't know how else to put it. I make a ballistic sum of money. All right? Why would I care? I don't. All right? I don't. If you're poor, I will watch you die poor. Nobody cares about your opinions. Let's see it. All right, let's see it. Let's talk money. How much money are you generating? How much money are you making? If you're not making any money, then you should probably sit there and look at that. If you got some 5,000 acre field and you're making less money than me, then you should probably think about that. All right, I mean, and at the end of the day, I mean, I don't know how many people, I don't know how many people net $1 million a year. I don't know how many people net $350,000, $400,000 a year. But even this year, I will end up netting about $400,000 for the year. What did I do with the money? What will I end up doing with the money? Well, I'll probably I pay for everything that I need. I pay for all of my bills, and I will still probably have like 100 cattle. All right, I may legitimately end the year with like 100 cattle. After, so I will have 100 cattle and I will have paid for everything that I needed. That's what I did with the money. I'll probably end up making almost, $400,000 this year. I may even end up with like 150 cattle. I'm not exactly sure. I'll have to take a look. As I reinvest my earnings and as I take a look at this and that, and I keep track of things, I will tell you, this is effectively what is happening. I'll end up making almost $400,000 I will probably end up making more than $1 million next year. More than $1 million. And money is money. All right, if you make less than $1 million, if you don't bring home $100,000 a month, then, if you don't bring home $40,000 a month, if you don't bring home $35,000 a month, then guess what? It's not debatable. You make less money than me. All right, what are you, an idiot? It's not complicated. I can almost guarantee it. I will make more than $1 million next year. I will make about, I'll make about $350,000, $400,000 this year. So if you bring home less than $35,000 a month, $35,000 a month, then you make less money than me. It's not debatable. If after you've paid for everything and you've taken a look at your situation, if you bring home less than $35,000 a month, if you bring home, let's say $25,000, because, there are things that I pay for that are not, whatever. Like, I pay for insurance, right? I pay for insurance and I pay for gasoline and I pay for, whatever. There are things that I pay for that are not equitable and et cetera, et cetera. So let's say, net, whatever, 20, 25,000 a month. If you don't, in another way, but it is what it is. All right. I mean, if you don't, and I can almost guarantee that my income will go over $1 million next year. My income, my total net home pay will exceed $1 million next year. All right, and at the end of the day, it is what it is. I don't care. Why would I care? I'm rich. I do very well for myself. If you want to be a homeless bum loser for the rest of your life, if you are adamantly going to hold on to being poor for the rest of your life, then have fun with that. Borderline pathetic. Should have been kicked into a hole a long time ago. All right, there's a very realistic possibility that you're just a flat out net negative, a waste of air. Legitimately, I mean, it's borderline idiocy. right? I mean, why would you you're not even looking to do better. You're not even looking to, you're not even attempting to, improve yourself. You're not putting in any effort to do any better for yourself. If you're in that situation, oh, well, I fell out of heaven to seven and I was born with the answer and my life is a magical journey, then you're going to die poor. I guarantee it, all right? And when the rubber hits the road, if you got put on a field with somebody like me, and it just is what it is, no hard feelings, let's see who can do it, I can almost guarantee you I would rip every single person on this planet apart. It wouldn't even be close. When it comes to farming, I may legitimately be one of the best in the world at it. I make a massive sum of money at the end of the day. I do. I make a massive sum of money. All right, and if you're going to die poor, if you're going to be poor, I will watch you die poor. I don't care. I will kick you into a hole myself if you legitimately bring that poor nonsense around me. I don't take kindly to poor people. If you're broke, I don't care. If you're broke and you're legitimately looking to do better for yourself, right? And you're putting in effort and you're looking, I've always said you have to put in effort. Nobody was born to do anything. You were born average. Almost everybody is born average. If you're not putting in any effort, if you are putting in effort, then that would put you more in, but you still don't really know what you're doing, but at least you're putting in effort and at least you're looking to do better for yourself, then I would consider you a broke person. If you're poor, that's something completely different. And if you're broke, I don't care. But if you're poor and you're a moron loser and you're borderline a homeless person and you're adamantly going to be like that for the rest of your life, I will kick you into the hole myself. You're a waste of air. You're a net negative. I mean, this is not funny. You could even be ruining other people, right? I mean, at least attempt to do better. Put in some effort and work to do better, okay? Work to do better. I show you what's possible when I do it. I show you what my results look like. And at the end of the day, money talks.